ReCore is an interesting game. Well, not really. In fact, it's quite forgettable, but it does have a pretty interesting gimmick where you rip out the cores of robots to power up your own robot's cores, hence the name ReCore. But we'll get more to that in a sec. First, let's start out with the story and atmosphere of the game. The story is that Earth is dead, and now the human race is trying to terraform this new planet so that they can live on it. Most of humanity is up in space waiting for the terraforming to complete, while a few humans are sent down to the planet in cryosleep to make sure that nothing goes wrong, along with hundreds of automated robots. Well, stuff obviously goes wrong, or else we wouldn't have this game. We play as Jewel, daughter of one of the scientists from Earth who invented the robots and terraforming stuff. Now, this may sound really interesting, but it's not. At the beginning of the game, it's mostly uninteresting, and by the time the story finally feels like it's trying to pick up some traction, it's towards the end already. We finally start to see the reasoning of the villain and why this whole situation is happening, and then it's over. It's almost like the game was cut off halfway, and this is only supported by what happens in the gameplay, which I'll explain in a little bit. The gameplay is a hybrid of collectathon games and third-person shooter games. You have to collect these magic rainbow cores to continue on, and they serve a similar purpose to Jiggies in Banjo-Kazooie or Stars in Super Mario 64. You have to collect a certain amount of them to continue, and they often involve getting to these mini-dungeons and completing platforming or fighting challenges. The platforming side of the gameplay is pretty fun, and polished enough so that most of the time it doesn't feel like you've been cheaped out while you die. I say most of the time because in the final stretch of the game there are some hard platforming challenges, and sometimes you'll hit something that doesn't actually exist, but that was mostly the only problem with it. You also have a double jump and a dash, which you have since the beginning of the game and never really get any upgrades for. There's only really one thing you get in the game that changes the platforming bit, and that's one of the robots that you get that lets you climb certain walls, but that's it for the whole game. So you'll learn the platforming pretty easy. As for the other type of gameplay, the combat, it has its ups and downs. The combat is color-coded, meaning if their color is red, hit them with red bullets, and this goes for all three primary colors, so red, yellow, and blue. The enemy's color can also be a combination of these colors like orange, green, purple, and these take damage from the colors that combine to make them. You can do damage to enemies without attacking with the right color, but it is considerably less. So if you're in 3rd grade and know how to use colors, the combat shouldn't be that bad. That being said, the combat can get really fucky. So you know when people are like, "Oh, shows and games don't realistically depict fighting because all the enemies would attack at once in real life." Well, this game won't disappoint you, because while you're fighting 1 or 2 enemies, another 3 will show up behind you and use all their most powerful abilities, stun-locking you because you have practically no invincibility frames and killing you almost instantly. So yeah, that part of the combat makes me a little angry, because fighting 1 enemy is fairly easy, as it should be, but fighting more than 1 can either be easiest thing you've ever fought, or completely bumfuck impossible, depending on if their attacks line up to stun-lock you just right. Now that all the other gameplay stuff has been talked about, take a journey with me, if you will. A journey to a place called the Endgame. The Endgame is a scary place, filled with bullshit cheapness meant to extend the game's content for a few extra hours. And no, I don't actually mean the actual endgame content. In fact, most of the final little platforming and fighting challenges are fun, challenging, and befitting of an endgame difficulty. I'm talking about how stupid it is to unlock these said levels. So, getting to the final boss, you have to have 20 magical MacGuffins, and you're allowed entry to the not-so-final final boss. After defeating him, you get access to the actual endgame platforming and fighting challenges, along with the actual final boss afterwards. And no, this isn't post-game content, the game makes that very clear. Now, to get to the first level of these challenges, you need 25 MacGuffins, and after you get through that level, to get to the second level, you need 30 MacGuffins. This continues like this until you get to the final boss, who needs either 45 or 50, I don't remember exactly. I should mention I only had about 20 to 25 Jiggies when I got to this point, and I had done a little more than just the main story stuff. This means that if you did only the main story stuff, you'd have a lot of unnecessary hunting to do to get to the end. I guarantee if you could look at the game statistics for how long players played, it would show that a bunch of players dropped off at this point. Anyways, collecting all the stars that you need does make you explore this bland desert world more, seeing that the developers did design stuff other than just wide open desert. Side note, I don't actually think I mentioned how boring the wide open world is, but it is. Would have been nice if the robots could have waited a few more 100 years for this revolution so the world could have been, I don't know, a bit more lush. Side note, why the fuck do these robots even have personalities? Is that really needed to build and maintain in the future? Because all builders and maintenance men I know don't really have personalities. Hey yo! Just kidding, but really? Do these robots need high intelligence? Let's be honest. Anyways, back to the main points. This game gets boring, and it only becomes apparent when you're forced to extend your playtime thanks to this bullshit endgame crap. That being said, this game is fun while it lasts and has a lot of cool aspects to it, but instead of capitalizing on those cool aspects, it decides to suffer through its less desirable but easy to design parts. And I didn't even mention leveling up your robots. Oh boy, is it terrible. You gotta raise one of 3 stats at a time on one of 3 robots by holding down the button and waiting for a meter of color-coded experience to fill up, causing you to do this 9 times each time you come back to the home base, which is fucking dumb. You also have to find upgrades and armor for your bots in the outside world, then build them using parts you also have to find, which is needlessly collectathon-y, almost to Donkey Kong 64 levels. Not to add, the loading times from going to place are pretty abysmal, even though they said they fixed it. P.S. They lied. Anyways, I went off on a bit of a tangent there, so let me wrap this up with this. The game is decent, but it has some flaws that hold it back. I recommend this game to people who like platformers, collectathons, and third-person shooters, and pretty much no one else. I like all these types of genres, so this game tickled my fancy in a way, but also it's easier for me to pick out the shitty things of it since I've played these types of games a lot. So if you feel like this review revealed to you that this game is your type of game, then buy it and enjoy it. And if not, then don't. Simple as that. Thanks for watching, blah blah. Tell me about how dumb I am in the comments, like or dislike. It doesn't really matter that much at this point because I have no subs and they both raise my interaction rates. So feel free to press whichever of those dumb thumb buttons jostles your gooch the right way. Anyways, if for some reason you're a weirdo who watches my channel stuff, look forward to more stuff later this month and in the future, and feel free to check out my past stuff. Hopefully, I'll see you later. Bye bye.